Hi Kleiner Elementary, this is Miss Malina, and today I'm going to get started with a chapter book. So this is Timmy Failure of the Timmy Failure series, and this is book number 6, The Cat Stole My Pants. A prologue that time-wise would take place somewhere between chapters 39 and 40, but which is being presented to you now instead because it's quite dramatic and compelling. A 6-toed cat stole my pants on an island called Key West in Florida. Round about here. It happened when we were touring the house of a famous author who I know nothing about, other than that he's dead. So when my mother made me dress up for the tour, I knew it wasn't to impress him. I also didn't know that the interior of the dead guy's house would have no air conditioning, causing me to sweat profusely as to be medically unsafe, which is probably what killed the author. But I am the detective, Timmy Failure, and I am harder to kill than any author. So when the heat of the house becomes overwhelming, I leave my mother with the tour group and walk back outside, where I do what any sane person would do, and remove my pants. But my cool, pantsless respite is cut short by the sound of my mother's voice calling to me from the upstairs window of the house. Timmy, where are you, Timmy? So I grudgingly return inside and stand amidst the tour group. What do you think you're doing? She whispers, pulling me to the back of the group. Saving my life, I answer, so I don't end up like the dead guy. I point towards the author's picture on the wall. Timmy, you are standing in a public place, in your underwear. It's my Mr. Froggy underwear, so people will think it's a fancy bathing suit, and besides, why do I have to dress up anyway? Everyone else here is in shorts. Before she can say anything, we are interrupted by the old man who is our tour guide. Folks, next we're going to see the room where Mr. Hemingway wrote. I don't know who that is, I reply as I shuffle past him in my underwear. Ernest Hemingway, you're standing in his house, he says, then pauses. You're standing in your underwear in his house. Son, could you please put on some pants? I'm so sorry, says my over-apologetic mother. She rushes me out of the upstairs bedroom we are in and onto the wraparound veranda. Timmy, where did you leave them? Who knows? Maybe next to the fountain outside, the one the cats were drinking out of. You stay here, she tells me. Don't move. So I stand outside on the veranda beneath a large ceiling fan and stare at the pudgy tourist below. And that's when I see him, the cat with 6 toes. Polydactyl, says the tour guide, peering out of the double doors that led onto the veranda. That means he has more than the usual number of toes, like the kind of cat the papa owned. They're like gigantic mittens, I reply. And who the heck is Papa? Ernest Papa Hemingway, he says, or the dead guy, as you call him. And as he says it, I hear my mother's footsteps rushing back toward us on the veranda. Your pants are not on the fountain, Timmy. They're not anywhere. Of course they're not, I reply, because they've been stolen. Stolen, she says. Who would steal pants? Him, I say. The cat, she says. Yes, I answer, with giant mittens for paws, could walk off with half the furniture in this house if he wanted to. Timmy, that little cat does not steal pants. He's never stolen my pants, the tour guide interjects, and I've been here 15 years. The tour guide smiles at my mother. She does not smile back. He slinks back inside the bedroom and rejoins the departing tour group. Timmy, I want you to focus. Where did you see them last? I told you already, by the fountain. Yeah, well, as I told you already, they're not here. So talk to Mr. Mittens over there, I answer, pointing again to the cat. It's a genetic mutation. We learned about it in science. God or Charlie Darwinian or somebody gave that little cat a thumb so he can grab things. And unfortunately for us, he has chosen to use that skill for evil ends, namely the theft of my pants. Mr. Mitten meows. Cats do not wear pants, my mother answers in that uniquely motherly tone that is half whisper and half scream. Correct, I answer, which is why he probably sold them on the kitty black market. She opens her mouth once again to lecture me, but is stopped short by a man's voice. This is one from beneath the veranda. Are you guys gonna come down here or just stay up there all day talking? So my mother peers over the railing. Tell that nosy tour guide to mind his own business, I say to her. My mother looks back at me and suddenly the anger is drained from her face, replaced by something else. It is as though she has seen the error of her ways, perhaps owing to a glimpse of Mr. Mitten's absconding with my pants. It's not the tour guide, she says. Is it a cat wearing pants? I answer. She shakes her head and reaches out her hand to take mine, pulling me towards the railing, where I peer down at the man, who I don't recognize. Papa, she says. I stare back inside at the picture of the white-bearded man on the wall, and then back toward the younger man beneath the veranda. And they look nothing alike. Not the writer, she says, reading my thoughts, briefly pausing to squeeze my hand. It's your father. Chapter 1. Give me your Timmy, your poor, your huddled masses. Many years ago, a zillion desperate people, all seeking a better life, escaped from a country called Cuba to a place called Key West, Florida. Many years later, one desperate boy, also seeking a better life, escaped from Key West, Florida to Cuba. Timmy, get back here so I can put lotion on you, says my mother. But I'm almost to Cuba, I answer. You're 2 feet from the shore, she says. In Florida. Google says that Cuba is only 90 miles away. I can swim that in an hour, and if I don't like it, I'll swim right back. Timmy, she says, yanking me out of the water by my arm and slathering sunscreen across my face. I want you to come back where we are on the beach, and I want you to play with Emilio. The poor kid's just standing up there, waving at you. But look at him, Mother, wearing his little ducky thing. It's embarrassing. It's not embarrassing, Timmy. Stop making life difficult. Well, I didn't want to come to stupid Key West in the first place. What did you want us to do? Leave you at home? Leave you for a week with some babysitter we barely know? Yes, I answer. No, she snaps back. Dave and I would have just worried about you. That would have ruined our entire honeymoon. Honeymoon, a word that Merriam-Webster dictionary defines suchly. Honeymoon, noun. 1. A pleasant period of time at the start of something, such as a relationship. 2. A trip or vacation taken by a newly married couple. Which reminds me, the first thing that I'm going to do when I get off this remote island is write to Mr. Merriam, or Mr. Webster, or Mr. Merriam-Webster, and tell them all to update their stupid dictionary. Because 1, this trip is a far cry from pleasant, and 2, my mother is not married. Well, she would say she's married, but there's no proof, because somebody named me fainted during the ceremony. And so I witnessed none of the unpleasantness, which brings me to the whole Emilio thing. Emilio is the nephew of my mother's so-called husband, Doorman Dave. Doorman Dave was once our doorman, but then my mother decided to marry him, and so now Doorman Dave is so-called husband Dave. And Emilio is here because, well, I'll just let my mother explain that one. We thought it'd be nice for you to have a playmate. A playmate. As though I'm a toddler sipping milk through a twirly straw while stacking my alphabet blocks. And my mother's comment is made doubly offensive by the fact that I already have a companion. My former business partner, Total, who is a polar bear and a fast swimmer, and by now is already in Cuba. Chapter 2, X marks the top. I am the founder, president, and CEO of Failure Inc., the best detective agency in the world. Probably the nation. Definitely the world. Emilio, write that part down. Emilio writes it down. How many detective agencies are there in the world? He asks. Well, what does that matter? I answer. Well, how do you know if you're the greatest if you don't know how many there are? I reach over and draw an X in Emilio's notebook. What's that? He asks. A demerit. You'll get 1 demerit every time you ask an inappropriate question. Emilio writes that down too. And you will be my intern. How much does that pay? Asks Emilio. It doesn't, so technically you'll be my unpaid intern. But why should I do it for nothing? I glare at Emilio. He writes an X in his notebook. I place the long wooden dock where we're standing on. At the end of it is a gazebo that now serves as the temporary global headquarters of Failure Inc. Emilio, I pause. What is your last name, Emilio? Empanada. Isn't that a food? I inquire. Yes, he says, and they're quite tasty. Emilio Empanada, I continue. You will not be doing this for the money, because money comes and goes. He writes that down. You will be doing it for the glory, because glory lasts forever. A tear rolls down his cheeks. I see you're moved to tears, I tell him. That is not an uncommon reaction. No, he says as he rubs his eyes. I wear contact lenses, and I just got sand behind the lens. I ignore the emotional Emilio Empanada and continue. Normally, I would not hire someone as inexperienced and emotional as yourself. But being that I am stuck with you, through no fault of my own, I have chosen to make the best of it. He raises his hand. Yes, Emilio Empanada? I overheard you saying something to your mother about a polar bear. Why is that? I remove a torn piece of notebook paper from my pocket. Yes, I answer. His name is Total, and everything you need to know on that subject is in this document. Do not share it with anyone. Emilio reviews the confidential document. You have a polar bear who eats people? He asks. Yes, I answer, and given your last name, you'll be especially vulnerable. I'm bigger than an empanada. Size is relative to a polar bear, I explain. He doesn't write that down. Now, you'll need detective supplies, I explain to him, like secret microphones and brass knuckles and fingerprint kits, and you'll need a bulletproof vest. He doesn't write that down either. Why aren't you taking notes? I ask. I'm just wondering, he says, scratching his head. Where is this polar bear? Because I don't see him. I point past the end of the dock toward the aqua sea that stretches to the horizon. Somewhere out that way, he is seeking political asylum in Cuba. I don't know what that means, says Emilio. You don't have to. All you need to know is that he is seeking a better life, and if you ever see a 1,500-pound furry beast arrive back on these shores, you are to run as though your life depended on it, because it does. Emilio stares at me, shielding his eyes from the sun. What now? I ask. I don't believe that you really have a polar bear. I think that you're just making that part up. I grab the notebook from his hands and make an X on every one of the remaining pages. And you'll need a new notebook, I tell him. Alright guys, so that is the prologue and chapters 1 and 2. And tomorrow I will read you guys chapters 3 and 4. So hope you guys have a great day, and I can't wait to see you guys back in class. See you tomorrow, guys. Bye.